Alrighty, folks, something you've seen on my channel is we have done some political content. This is something I actively tried to stay away from for years. However, it is in our face each and every day. And frankly, as the channel grows, more and more people want to know my opinion. So at the end of the day, we have done, I think, 2 political shows. Each time we've done a political show, once with Jason Hartman, once with the Three Amigos. I put a comment in the beginning saying, hey, we're talking politics. You may not like this. Don't watch. But even when we do that, some people like it, some people don't. But yeah, Mark, what'd you find this week?
Man, it's very interesting, just, seeing these videos, looking through the comments, you can definitely see where the country's at. There's people that are cheering on what you guys are saying, people pushing back, making rude comments. But I think this comment that you shared on X, it was from the Three Amigos video that you guys did. It says, longtime listener, first time commenter. I don't get into politics online, and I know y'all three prefer not to as well and stay focused on real estate. However, I listened to today's video and appreciate you sharing your concerns. I watch all news networks and to give myself different perspectives. When I heard you three today, I felt it and now share concerns that I was not worried about before. If it all is nothing burger, great. If it does go the way you fear, I feel more prepared for what might come our way with political decisions. So thank you for today's video. Please set it up more like this in the future if you feel so inclined. When the three amigos have political concerns, I start to be politically concerned.
That's awesome. I almost couldn't hope for a better comment. And I didn't do these political videos easily. I fought it for well over a year. But, there's more and more stuff coming at us that kind of impacts the economy. It impacts real estate. The fact that we elected a communist who has a racist communist housing person, Sia Weaver, she's a racist. She's just a flat out racist and doesn't hide from it. And, she's out there trying to destabilize housing so that she can steal it. And I can't stand idly by when, the fabric of the United States is being attacked. And, this whole, we're going to get rid of the, rugged individualism and replace it with the collective comfort of the, whatever, the warmth of the collective. I'm like, God, that's what freaking Stalin and Mao Zedong and all these other people who killed hundreds of thousands of people. I'm like, I can't stand by and let communists in my country, right? Sia Weaver is a racist communist, and I support her freedom to be a racist communist. But that doesn't mean I have to sit idly by and let her say her nonsense. I'm going to call out her nonsense because I have the freedom to call out her nonsense, and I have the freedom to call her a racist communist. And, that's where we are. And, I fought it for a long time. I will be as respectful as I can, but, I'm certainly going to stay focused on real estate and investing in economics. That's what I enjoy. I hate politics, but I'm guessing probably once a month, we're going to do a political show. And typically, as I see it, they're going to be on 3 topics. It just flows the best. We'll discuss 3 things and that'll be it. But again, if you don't like politics, good news. I'll make it very clear in the first 60 seconds, this is going to be a political show. And I saw more people. I thought those videos would get 50% hate and 50% likes because that's where we are. What I saw was 80% like and 20% hate. And that's good enough for me to keep going. It's not going to make me change the channel or change who I am, but I think once a month is probably, you probably could count on something once a month.
Yeah, I definitely think it was, like you said, 80% like, 20% hate. And I think for the most part, if you listen to it, you guys are pretty in the middle, level-headed for the most part. I think, your Jason Hartman videos, definitely.
There's nothing in the middle about Jason. Jason is not in the middle.
So I'm not sure if you give your guests any like warnings ahead of time. Hey, try to keep it in a certain place. But this
No.
individual from that video, David Bush, says, Zuber, I've listened to you since 2021 and love your content. You have great insight. I own a nice portfolio in Charleston, South Carolina, and have retired early in my 30s. My point is that I'm not some blue-haired loser. I'm pretty middle of the road politically, but lately a lot of the guests are just abrasive. I don't speak about liberal or conservative people in such broad, insulting strokes. It's just a turn off that the approach is that anyone doesn't like MAGA is an idiot, a scammer, etc. Nothing is that simple. I've noticed that you didn't go down that road, but a lot of your guests do, and it's just insulting. And I became part of the community to share, learn about economics and real estate principles. I know that you said you don't care and some shows are going to be political, but that insulting stuff is a bit much. Loyal listener several times a day for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, some of those off the cuff, specifically Jason. Matt, the lumberjack, gets there occasionally, but Jason goes there the most frequently. Some of those kind of quippy comments are frankly too far and something I would never say, and frankly I don't feel right. I think the world is they're the tail of our community, or our America. There's like 3%, 3.5% crazy on the left and 3.5% crazy on the right. The problem with these 7%, right, 3.5 times 2, is they're just freaking loud. And they're all over the place. So it just feels like 20%. It's not, right? These blue-haired, crazies, it's not that many people. It's just that they're out there all the time. And just like these mega zealots on the right, there's not that many of them. It's only like 3.5%. So yeah, I mean, I don't warn my guests. I don't ask them to do anything. Maybe I should call out some of those comments that happen occasionally. But again, in a political show, which that Jason Hartman video had a warning, you're going to get political comments, and some of them are going to be harsh, and some of them are going to be things I don't agree with. But that's their opinion, right? This is America. He's allowed to have his opinion, and if he thinks that, he should say that. Just like I think Sia Weaver is a racist communist, and I won't stop saying it. If you follow me on X, every time I see a video from her, I just keep telling people to stop being nice and just call her a racist communist. This is America. She's allowed to be a racist communist. But don't be afraid to call her that. Stop being nice. So I don't know. It's yeah, I take the comment. I appreciate the support. I think we're going to do a political video once a month. It's just where we are.
I would advise people to maybe take a look through the comments sometimes. So, they may leave a comment, but then like you said, if you didn't agree with it, you put it in there in the reply, like, yeah, I didn't really care for that, or I didn't agree with that. So it's apparently there. So
yeah.
But this one was an interesting one too. This was on your video with Cody Davis, 7 reasons the middle class stays broke and the rich get richer. This individual says, it said, Rat, it appears to me you are posting a lot lately. What is the reason behind this? Are you also needing the income?
Oh, I love haters. This person is clearly a Crash Bro fan, and I call them out all the time, and the fact that they do this just for the money. I think it's hilarious. All right, if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know that I used to post 6 videos a day. 6, 7, 9, 11, 1, 3, and 5 every day. I did that for years. I now only post 3 videos a day. So, you're clearly barking up the wrong tree. And yeah, I mean, I just think it's really funny. It's just really funny. And I'm clear, right? I think I've told people I made $35,000 on YouTube last year. I don't hide anything. You guys really think $35,000 is going to move the needle for me, right? You guys are nuts. In fact, I mean, let's be really clear. I spend $2,000 a month on thumbnails and postings. So in reality, what did I make? Like 11 grand? Like that's going to move the needle for me? Are you kidding me? But yeah, it's cute. You're cute. Oh, little Crash Bro fan. You're so cute. You almost got me. Try again. It's crazy.
All right. So this one was on your Daily Financial, mortgage demand explodes higher. Chris Johnson says, you just have to love Mike and his cheerleading. Bro, you have used the headline mortgage demand explodes a dozen times in the last year.
Mm.
Surprise, surprise, the transactions didn't increase.
You're just wrong. You're just wrong. Transactions have increased since August. August was the bottom. We had a rate and term refi boom this year, which again, you're an idiot, a moron for not understanding. We started a cash out refi boom, which you're a moron, an idiot for not understanding. Sales in December were the strongest they've been in 3 years, and those deals were locked in October and November. You're just a moron. You're just some crash bro donkey fan who's bitter for being broke, living in mom's basement. You need to get out in the real world and see that transactions are up. Even new homes are up, right? New home sales are up. So it's just really funny when these clowns come around and try to act smart, and they just make themselves look stupid. It's freaking amazing. They're self-owned. They're just crazy.
All right, so let's get into some of the questions now that people have. It's not a lot of hate or anything, but this one was from here. Will AI destroy the housing market with Coach Carson? Funny Tech Bro says, what do you think about the rising rhetoric of communism and asset seizure across the country? Doesn't that make real estate a poor risk-reward investment?
Well, I guess it would if you assume that this communist and asset seizure rhetoric would go anywhere. It's not. It's in New York City, right? We've talked about Sia Weaver 3 times now. She's a communist racist who's looking to steal properties. You have the California wealth tax, which is supposedly going to take 5% of the billionaires, but the middle class better pucker up because the math's not mathing. They're coming for you. But I believe all of these things will ultimately fail. They'll either fail at the Supreme Court or they will fail spectacularly because they're communist models. Folks, this communist system doesn't work. For all the bitching about capitalism, it's the best system. It's not a perfect system. It's probably not even a great system. It's just the best system known to man. Go read history. Communist doesn't work. The stuff that Sia Weaver is saying in New York City has been said before by lots of people. It doesn't work. And frankly, it'll run for 2 or 3 years and it will blow up spectacularly. And then great news, we won't have to talk about it for 20 years until the next generation forgets that communism doesn't work. So just because there's a bunch of clowns in left-wing nut jobs talking about communist activities doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? The system that we have here will eventually break it, in my opinion. So I'm not worried about, New York City, becoming the country. I'm not even worried about California's wealth tax. I mean, even Gavin Newsom, who I hate with every fiber of my body, has come out saying we can't do this. So no, it's just noise, right? Go get a buy box, look in your area, look in your city, right? I will say, if you're like in LA County, I wouldn't own there. I mean, there are some places that are uninvestable, but eventually, right, you get a new mayor, it turns around. So that's what happens. Some places will go very far left, and then they'll go bankrupt, and you'll suddenly go right, and it'll come back. And it's just how the system works. It's self-regulating.
Yeah, it was interesting too on your video with Dana from Hemling. She was talking about how there's investors that are making it work, foreign investors making it work in like LA or San Francisco, I believe, right? So
yeah.
So this one was another great question. This was on actually our recap video from the previous week. This individual, I'm a Begum X21, says, really interesting discussion. How do you personally stay focused and keep executing when negativity shows up?
That is a good question. Negativity can come in lots of forms. When I saw that question, that's what I first thought was negativity can come in many forms. So I want to try to answer all of them because I think it's important, right? There's negativity from kind of the world, right? Coming at you, right? You're stupid, you're this, you're that. There's that kind of negativity. And the best thing I can tell you is if you wouldn't take advice from them, their opinions don't matter. So you've just got to almost build a callus to hate. Certainly if you're going to go on social media like you and I are, I mean, God damn, the amount of hate comes. But again, if you just self-regulate and say, hey, would I take advice from this person? If the answer is no, their opinions don't matter. There was also an actor, I forget his name. He played Spider-Man. Anyways, whatever his name was. I thought he had a great line. If you have a problem with me, call me. And if you don't have my phone number, then you can't have a problem with me. Right? That's kind of, there's just kind of some sweet logic in that. Again, the world is full of crazies who are angry at the world in their mom's basement, and they're probably watching Crash Bros. You just got to let those go. They don't know what they're saying. They're venting at the world. Then there's negativity from kind of like action. And this is part of the first 5 years suck of getting wealthy, right? It's where you make mistakes and things, it just gets more and more expensive and you're drowning. And that's the most important thing there, is being in a community of other people that go through it. So you realize you're not alone, right? I talk about the 5 years sucking almost every week because I want people to know it sucked for us too, right? And everybody in my community, they're like, yeah, we had our moments. Yeah, it does suck. And some people are like, yeah, I'm stuck in the suck now. And it does get better. But, being around other people that you can A, share with, B, commiserate with, like I've been there too, and then maybe give you some advice. You just got to be in the right rooms and the right communities. That's why I like what we do in our school community, because it's 500 people going the same direction. And then I guess the last thing when I think about this negativity is just know it's part of life. It just is. It's just part of life. You some days you're a 10 and some days you're a 0. And you just keep fighting, right? I think it's a country song that says, if you're going through hell, keep going, right? Don't stop. So if you're just in one of those days where you're a 0, keep going, because tomorrow might be a 10. Those are kind of my random thoughts.
Well, you did mention school, and I like bringing up some of the questions that are brought up in school also, so people can realize what they're missing out on.
Yes.
But this one, once again, from Frank Old Guy REI, he says, turns out they were right. So the question is, what advice did you ignore that turned out to be dead on?
Wow. There's so many things that you hear when you're just starting out that you're like, you kind of write off. I guess the one that comes to my mind, because again, I saw them all, right? The advice, invest in your backyard, that's stupid advice. The 1% rule, I think that's stupid. I guess the one that I thought I could get around was I remember an old guy. I mean, it was funny. We were at sushi one time, and the couple next to us, this was early. So I think Olivia and I were in our 30s when we did this. So this had to be 20 years ago. And he said, he heard us talking, because every sushi dinner we would talk real estate. And he goes, hey, my wife and I retired in real estate, something like that. And he goes, my one piece of advice for you is go get long-term debt. And at the time, you got to remember, this was like probably 05, 06, and arms were everywhere, and all of that. And that didn't really hit me until after the crash and realizing that all the arms were blowing up. Thankfully, we didn't get any of them, but I do remember that conversation and thinking, huh, really? Longest possible? Haven't you not seen what rates are doing? And basically long-term fixed rate debt was like the key, his key to us. And I bet you he was 80 years old and we were 30. I still remember that conversation at Sono Sushi. It doesn't exist anymore, but I remember that conversation sitting at the sushi bar as the little boats came by. So I hope he's still around. He was a nice guy.
I think one of your stories too, right? You had maybe 5-year short-term debt.
I did.
You had to approach the seller again.
One of the scariest phone calls I ever made was on an apartment building we owned, where the seller took back a short-term second 5 years, and he could have taken the building back because we couldn't pay it. And thankfully, he said he didn't want it, and he gave us another 5 years. But that could have been a disaster. Yeah, short-term debt. I'll never do a 5-year again. I'll never do a 10-year minimum.
So once again, school, or even LinkedIn, because now you're writing every day, and maybe people haven't heard what this saying is or what it means. But the fuck it, book it. Is it FIBI?
Yes.
You
FIBI,
can always make
fuck it,
more
book
money. You can never make more time. So what is this all about?
It's funny. I heard that the other day. It was about a month ago, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like, who would ever FIBI, right? I mean, come on. But it's one of those things, at least for me, sometimes I hear things and my natural reaction is to repel it away, call it stupid. But occasionally, like FIBI, it just stuck with me. And the more something like that sticks with me, I know that I have to dig in. And now I actually think FIBI is an amazing thing. And it's actually something I wish I did more of, because as like I wrote about this on LinkedIn and school, I spent most of my path saying someday this, someday that. And, you know, I missed out on a lot of things, right? My daughter's now 35 and lives on the East Coast. Right. There's a lot of trips we should have done. And again, I'm not talking about being financially irresponsible. I'm like, you know what? We should have gone to Yosemite. We should have gone to Carmel. We should have gone to Disneyland, right? We could have driven there. And there's just, life is so short. And the other thing that really hits, I think the reason why FIBI stuck with me is I have personally seen more 70-year-old plus multi-millionaires miserable because of someday, right? I think his name was Harry. I think I wrote about it in an article earlier this week. I think it was Harry. He was worth $100 million, and he was traveling the world as a widower. And, during one of those conversations I had with him, he told me that he would trade 20 years of his life to have 1 year of travel with his wife. What happened? He was a business owner, successful, obviously. And he was just always too busy. And he kept telling his wife, someday, someday, someday. And unfortunately, she got very, very sick and passed very, very quickly. And that broke him. He ended up selling his business shortly thereafter. And now he spends the money traveling solo, and he's miserable. He's just miserable. He wishes his wife. I mean, you could see it in his face. So, I think it's all of those things. And now I'm a fan of FIBI. Sometimes you just got to say, fuck it. Let's go. Now, you can always make more money. You can't make those memories back. So I'm a huge fan. Again, initially I was like, this is financial irresponsibility. But now I'm like, fuck it, book it. Let's go.
I think that is the perfect place to end this, because I'm not sure when this video is coming out, but today is the last day to buy your Vegas tickets.
Yes.
And if you're on the fence and you're saying don't be financially irresponsible, but if you're on the fence, just fuck it, book it, get your tickets, be there.
Let's
and
go.
It'll be great. Exactly.
Yeah, I will actually post this at noon today, because I think you're right. I think there's a couple people on the fence, and yeah, fuck it, book it. Let's go. Again, think about the event. This is your third year. It's like a family reunion. Yeah, the speakers are great, all of that, but you're in a room with everybody doing the same thing. And there's nothing like that anywhere. I've been to lots of events. Our community is unique. So, Mark, where can they find you?
Financial Firefighter, YouTube, Instagram, X. And like I mentioned last week, there's still 5 free first months of school available. Thanks to Scott from Fantasy Football. He's donating his winnings from the ORAT League. But
thanks,
yeah,
Scott.
come join us.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks again.
Okay, bye.